Evening all. So today we're going to do a bit of an analysis video. These are the kind of 5 top things that I would love to see in Eve, Vanguard. What I've done here is put it into some sort of business framework and we'll do this through kind of a simple application of a graph. The idea of this video really is to kind of call out what I'm hearing, because a lot of people are telling me, oh, it doesn't have this, it doesn't have that. I'm not hearing a huge amount of it's great because it has this. And that's because it's still a new game. So I think we do need to give them a little bit of time. But the point of this video, I think, is going to be really calling out what made Dust really successful, because Dust obviously there was something about it, wasn't there? It was an interesting game, and I think it was because of a certain number of kind of things you could do in the game, or kind of, let's say, factors that gave it some edge, if you like. So the point of this video is really going to be looking at maybe some of the sort of top 5 things that I would like to see in Vanguard. I don't expect them to be there for release, but it's maybe direction of travel, because I think that's kind of where you kind of hope this is going, because it does look as if there's going to be a long-term plan for this game. Obviously that depends on how successful it is. But anyway, so we'll break this down into a kind of interesting graph. So I've taken 2 core elements here, complexity in terms of how complex potentially it could be to add this to a game, how complex itself is is maybe what I'm asking for. And the other side of this, the y-axis, is phonicity. If you've never heard of phonicity, yeah, it's basically how fun this could be. Because some things you could add, like, and we'll come to that maybe don't actually add a lot of fun to the game, but they add depth. And that's kind of the framework. So let's maybe start with the most obvious one, which to me, I'm hearing a lot of as well, is vehicles. So people want vehicles in this game. That was definitely one of the good things about Dust, was the vehicles, the dropships, the LAVs and the HAVs, tanks effectively. It was fun, it was good, it worked. It made the game feel more like Battlefield than Call of Duty. And I do hope one day there is a drive to maybe put vehicles into Vanguard. But I guess they're just not there now. And here's why I don't think it is, because I think they have a bit of a plan with this, that they want to push this to be more about shipboarding and things like that. I mean, that's my ultimate hope here. So, it's probably the most complex thing you could ask for, because it's just an entirely different code that you have. It's probably also the most fun thing they could do. So if they keep this game on the planet, you have to address the fact of how do people get around. And I know we're all clones, but if it's like, oh, well, you're 10 miles away from base and you need a Wii, you're not just going to shoot yourself in the face to re-clone and then you don't need a Wii anyway. Do you see what I mean? It's kind of pointless. So you have to have something that allows people to get around. To me, dropships would be a really good thing. I think drones, jet bikes, jetpacks, these are all kind of cool things that hopefully they'll add one day. But I don't necessarily think they need to be there day one, because as with all of these things, taking ourselves out of the game slightly, the only thing that matters is it's a good shooter. And I can't stress that enough. If it comes out and it's a very weak, mediocre shooter, people will immediately say, nope, not playing this. So I think they are absolutely correct in putting all of their effort into making sure the gun game is good, because an awful lot of people would judge it on that. So vehicles, I think, hopefully will come. There's my first sort of endearing memory of Dust. This is when I started playing it. Josh Evil had got me into it and said, just try and give it a try, see how you get on with it. And I got in a dropship, and we just went around murdering people like crazy in the game. And it was there's something incredible about it. I think I've actually put a video a bit later on where I'll show it, so I'll call it out when I see it. But just that feeling of taking off, the afterburner when it raised so high into the sky really quickly, it was exhilarating, I would say. So vehicles, I think, could add something to the game, but I don't necessarily agree that it needs to be a day one thing. But I just know a lot of people won't even touch this game without it. But there we go. So number 2, the suit config. I am aware that it's not there. Now, you'll probably correct me here, those of you who have played the actual beta, because I haven't played it yet. The gun is what you configure, and there's quite a lot you can do with it, which is okay, cool, I like that, that's kind of cool. The reason the suit configuration was important was you basically could go and turn, like I'm doing here, you know, you could turn the suit into like a jumpy, you know, plasma cannon, you know, flaylock thing, and then in the next sort of moment have something that was pretty, you know, pretty heavy and able to run forge guns, things like that. So I think my kind of feeling here is that the suit config is going to be missed. It does feel a complex thing to add because obviously I just think it's going to be hard. And I do think it's something that would feel a loss from Dust. You would sort of feel the game as less than Dust if it didn't have a suit config. However, let's see how the gun config goes, because it might be that you can do quite a bit there. I am being told that there's things like jetpacks potential on the way, so I think it might come, but let's see. So post in the comments if you know more about it than me. My feeling is without that ability to really customize, you know, brick tank versus speed tank, you know, things like that. This is all kind of cool things that you can do in EVE. Why wouldn't you be able to do that in EVE Vanguard? Number 3, orbitals. I mean, orbitals are like the best thing in the game. Now, they probably will be there, but as far as I can sort of see, I haven't seen anything yet. So post in the comments if I've missed that. I just love the idea of orbitals. I think it was one of the key things that when they announced that connection between EVE and Dust that I was really interested in. The only problem with it was, I think it was not poorly implemented, but it could have been done a bit smoother. The reason it was a bit challenging was all of the conflicts happened in low security space and in faction warfare, or rather planetary warfare. So it was pretty limited where you could actually do it. And I just think you might as well have just slammed that into, you know, the general game, just put it absolutely everywhere. But anyway, there we go. So for me, orbitals is something that you would be playing with your group. You'd have just owned a load of people. You're capturing point B, and then you hear that screeching siren from above you, and you know you're done. There's nowhere you can run, nowhere you can hide. You're through. There was something incredibly awesome about that. Just look at the visuals behind, by the way. Dropships, yeah, awesome. So this was in fact the footage here. So this was literally I think one of my very first games it might have been, or one of the first things I recorded. They were overpowered at the time, but look just how fun they were. This is why I think vehicles should be in the game at some point. But again, you know, it's challenging to see how. So let's move on to point 4. So for me, EVE is a space game. I think they're going in this direction anyway, and they're keeping it quiet. I could be wrong, but I just get the impression that with the new deathless boarding torpedoes, with the need to carry mercenaries potentially in your cargo hold, come on, that's literally lining up EVE Vanguard. So my feeling is that there will be some form of internal map within ships that you'll fight through. I think that's coming, and I'm sort of shivering with anxiety to kind of get that into the game because I just think that would be amazing to have that ability to board a ship, fight on that ship, really just sort of take it to a sub game. There's always been this fascinating thing in gaming that I've always been surprised has never taken off, but I remember seeing it probably 20 years ago where somebody meshed together 3 games. It was like an Elite version, so you know if you know Elite Dangerous, it's like a space game that you then went to a planet and it loaded another game. So if you imagine you're playing, you know, let's say EVE, you warp to a planet and then the computer literally loads another game like Factorio, but it meshed it all together, so you couldn't actually tell. It didn't feel like you're actually leaving the game, loading another one and starting it. It's very clever. And I remember thinking there must be something in that, but never took off. It was something that no one really developed, I think. And I think that's a shame because it could have been quite cool. Anyway, space combat to me is just absolutely a critical thing. I get that Vanguard and Dust are on planets and they should be on planets, but I also think there's something to be said about the sci-fi of fighting on a space platform. You know, literally the only thing you've got above and below you is space. It doesn't have to be even zero gravity, although that would be cool. It doesn't have to be. It still could be in that realm. And I just think that would be something really quite interesting and quite fun. Plus, I imagine it's relatively straightforward to do, but you know, I'm probably wrong on this. And the final one. So the final one is probably the most important one. Whatever you do, you have to make it appeal to the Eve douchebags. Nothing has changed here, right? Nothing. So when Dust came out, I did video after video saying, how do they connect this PS3 game to a load of Eve Online PC players? And the answer is, well, you put it on PC. Well, they've done that now. But the problem is, I still see an awful lot of people basically saying to me, oh, it's just waste of CCP resources. They should be putting that into the Eve game and giving me new ships and new things I can do in Eve. It's because Eve's a drug. It's an absolute addiction that you want to get more and more content in that game. So the fact that people are doing something different, an Eve Vanguard first-person shooter game, is abhorrent to a lot of people. I think we need to try and change that mindset. How we do that, I don't know. But for me, space combat, orbitals, these are all things that you could connect the Eve player to so that they actually have a stake in it. Now, mercenaries and shipboarding, if it goes that way, then you're going to do two things. You're going to really excite the player base, or you're going to really annoy the player base. And here's an example. Oh, you can take a Titan now. You have 100 dudes ready to literally log on to their first-person shooter, mercenary dude, launch torpedoes, then get the guys to log in, and then steal a Titan. I mean, it would cause chaos. It would be wonderful. I just want to reiterate that point. It would be amazing. But there is a big problem in the Eve community. There's an awful lot of whining. And there's a lot of people that will not like that. I remember hearing time and again, I don't want somebody on a PS3 dictating my game on PC. I am superior to them. And they're playing a free game. Rah! And I just remember thinking, oh my goodness, how do you change that mindset? Even now, when you look on Discord and that, you still see quite a bit of sort of negativity towards the game. As I returned out of my hyper sleep status slumber, I remember talking to a number of people that I used to play with, and everyone has said to me, oh, I tried it, I wasn't that mad about it. And I'm like, that's wrong. You should be sort of saying, well, it's not ready yet. Let's try and figure out how to make it more ready. So there we go. My feeling is that there's actually a really interesting game here. Do I think it's going to be sort of huge, sort of Battlefield 4 level? No, but I don't want it to be. I think there is a place in this world now for very niche targeted software. And I think Vanguard and Eve really could fill that. I mean, Eve fills that already. There's only 20,000 people playing this game at any one time. So if you extrapolate that out, 100,000, 200,000 people maybe actively playing Eve at the moment. So for me, they have to do this. There's no choice now. They can't just literally sit back and say, well, Eve is fine. So this is why they're doing a new version of Eve. This is why they're doing Eve Vanguard. And if we like these products, if we truly say that we are supporters of these products, then really people should be much more behind them. Because I'll tell you now, Star Citizen, while it looks very good, I don't think it'll do what this game series of products does. And I think there is still a lot of mileage in this universe. And I do hope that you believe that too, really. But there we go. So that's my kind of view. Post in the comments, let me know what you think. I think we will continue this series because I think there's already about another 4 that I've just thought of as I yammer on right now. But I can see there's some interesting stuff here that I'm kind of excited about, and I think we should totally get behind it. I'm not saying we should cheerlead and fanboy, but I just think I'm excited. I feel a little bit like when Dust started. I remember that feeling of doing the early videos that I used to do, some of which you're seeing behind the screen now. And I just think there's something interesting about it, enough to make me want to come back and do a bit of YouTube, which is kind of amazing, really. And it's completely nothing to do with the court case and the ongoing troubles I have with my legal position. Nothing to do with that whatsoever. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. We'll see you next time.